Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of voice recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to another DM's Guild review, my written and video view series. Take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. This video will be reviewing the Monster Supplement Candlekeep Library Bestiary, Monsters, NPCs, Magic Items, and more for Candlekeep Mysteries, designed by Stormcrow Dreamscapes for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy my content, consider using my affiliate links for your online shopping and supporting me via patreon.com/Rogue Watson. I previously reviewed Candlekeep Mysteries, and one of the things that adventure doesn't necessarily do is add a whole bunch of monsters. So I think this monster supplement actually fills that gap very, very well. We get over 30 new stat blocks with a very strict adherence to the theme of things you would find in a library. Now, it uses Candlekeep because that's obviously the biggest famous library in the Forgotten Realms on the Sword Coast, and we had the whole Candlekeep Mysteries as an adventure, so it makes sense. Obviously, nothing, from what I understand, is necessarily tied to that library, and specifically that you couldn't just use in any library. So I think just if you're going to use, which keep in mind, if you've looked at Candlekeep Mysteries, a lot of the adventures don't even take place in Candlekeep. The overarching narrative, well, there isn't one. The narrative connective tissue is not Candlekeep itself even. It's just books. It's, all of those adventures have to do with a book. It starts with a book, or you need a book somehow, or whatever it is. And only a few of them actually even take place at Candlekeep itself. So that being said, I think this does a really cool job offering a lot of really fun, interesting stat blocks that you would see specifically in a dungeon crawl of a library, one that was actually guarded. And if you were to ask me, well, Eric, what kind of creatures, do you want to use in a library that was part of a dungeon excursion or something? And I would say, well, probably some kind of, animated constructs. That's exactly what we get here. We get a shit ton of constructs. So out of the 30 stat blocks, 10 of them are NPCs, which is awesome. NPCs are, just folks. They're, humanoids that are kind of set with different classes and items and things. And they're usually not that exciting for a stat block, but they're very useful to have for a DM so that you don't just have to use the same old ones from the monster manual. So it's nice to have those. Of the other ones, there are 21 of them, I believe. Half of those are constructs. And that includes awakened spell books, and a monstrous monster manual, which is a fun little alliteration. Clockwork automatons, book golems, giant globes, animated map tapestries, which can be summoned by the giant globe, desk mimics, and swarms of encyclopedias. Just all kinds of really, really fun ideas. I think Candlekeep had the one, was it a chained up a bookshelf or something that could slam you with books and things? If you liked that as a monster idea, which I did, I thought that was very cute. This kind of goes along with that same vein of really fun, kind of cute but still effective ideas that you would actually find in a library dungeon. I really like this Clockwork Firefighter, for example. It literally can sound an alarm if it detects fire anywhere. It can sense fire, and it uses its water cannon to spray down fire, which of course also does bludgeoning damage. It can knock people around, which is very cool. All of the books have a way to surprise people. Oh, there's a really cool one that's this ink, which is actually not a construct. It's an ooze. This ink of Jubilex, which can hide obviously in a scroll or a book and then pop out and attack somebody or melt somebody's spell scroll. So you could use that as a delayed trap almost. You give somebody a spell scroll from a very mysterious, strange, disreputable library or loot location, and somebody tries to read this scroll, and all of a sudden this ooze just melts it all over and just attacks the person's face. That's such a fucking fun idea. I love it. A giant globe, you can turn that into just which I would have thought would be a trap, but in this case it uses an actual stat block to just roll down and crush people and then spawn these the maps. I love the map also because it's basically a rug of smothering plus stuff, and in this case the stuff is it can summon various elements based on whatever's on the map. So if it's got a lot of ocean or bodies of water, then it can summon water and deal water damage. Or if it's got a volcano, then the volcano erupts and deals lava damage. That's just a cute, fun idea, and I really like that. The library cat is mostly just a gag creature, but actually does have some little stat blocks in there where it's like you have a 20% better chance of finding what you need, but also the cat has like a 10% chance to piss on your stuff that you're looking for, which is very true of cats. What's the other one? Oh, the palimpsest. I'm not sure to pronounce this one, but this is like a an animated. Actually, it's not animated. It's a monstrosity. It's classified as, but it's a blank parchment that if it deals its attack, it can grapple you, and if it grapples you over the course of 2 turns, it can use its action to try to absorb you into its parchment and turn you into an illustration on that parchment. And the only way to free that person once they're actually absorbed, it's kind of a way of petrifying them, is to zap it with lightning. So you can use that in 2 ways. You can either use that as a offensive creature that's going to absorb somebody, or have it had already happened to an NPC or a monster or something, and somebody looks at it and maybe you put it in a room where it's going to get shot by lightning or something, and then that monster can pop out, and then you can create some interesting, maybe a puzzle / combat mechanic there. So I thought that was a really cool, clever idea, and just so many neat things you can do with just a damn library that I was really, really impressed with. The philosophical discord made me laugh several times while reading the stat block. This, feels like a narrative event where it's just people arguing. It's a large swarm of medium humanoids who have just gone into this debate and are just arguing and yelling at each other. And literally, there's spells flinging around. They throw books. There's random people punching each other. They can go on I love the thing for political rant. It basically imposes disadvantage. Loud insults coming from the swarm confuses the creature and makes it question its own worldview. The creature then must reroll and use the lower result as a reaction. So that's a really funny idea that probably would be more about maybe in a bar, but I guess I like the fact this is more of an erudite group of people who have just kind of gone into just fisticuffs and are now just a ball, which again, you would feel like it's some kind of like cutscene or social role-playing thing, but maybe your players are more into doing combat and you want to be like, hey, why don't we just turn this into a combat encounter with just this swarm of people that you then have to deal with. So really, really fun, cool ideas for all those monsters that I was very impressed because, how do you stick to that theme of library creatures? Well, I think it did a really good job of doing that. It just stuck to a bunch of like paper creatures or, animated spell books and these automatons and just things that I would picture being in a library. I even skipped over the few undead, like the ghost librarian, which has a freaking librarian shush ability, where as a reaction, it can try to shush somebody who's about to cast a spell and basically inflict the silence effect on them, which is really clever. Which we also see the regular librarian in the actual list of NPC stat blocks as well, which these ones are not nearly as clever or interesting, but they're still very nice to have, right? Because you're going to end up using a lot of these humanoids. You can just have them, in your library, in your crowd, if it's a hostile location or as, somebody that the party meets. So maybe not so much that they end up battling these people, or maybe they do, but I think it's always useful having these NPCs, and the right call is always to add them into a book that's got the more interesting creatures and not necessarily just focusing, on those. Although I have reviewed products that just have those, and those are nice to have too. And then finally, we get 1 character background and about half a dozen magic items. The background is a translator, which, D&D 5e backgrounds are never that cool, I guess. They're, they usually have abilities that don't really come into play. They're more esoteric, and they give you your skills and languages. It's kind of easy just to come up with your own. And I don't want to downplay the designer for giving us a library themed background that is very nice. What I will give a huge thumbs up for is they actually go the extra mile and give us the personality traits, the ideals, the bonds and flaws. I don't see that every time whenever I see people add background, so that's a huge plus, and I enjoy seeing that because it gives you a lot of inspiration for trying to create a studious player character. And of course, the magic items are the same theme. So it's things like an hourglass that makes time go by seemingly quicker because you are, engrossed in your reading, or things that help you translate different books. All these maps that let you teleport around. It's fun, ideas, and just gets into that theming once again really, really hard, which is very impressive. And again, you don't have to just think of this as an expansion to Candlekeep Mysteries, although I think it would be a very effective one. Anytime you've got even just a single, and it might not even have a dungeon crawl in a whole library. It might just be a library as one part of your dungeon. But if it is, then I think including some cool, interesting, monsters that would be themed to that library is a cool thing to throw at your players. And I really think there's some neat ideas here. The final thing I want to add before we get into the pros and cons is that this book is entirely for charity. It is a non-profit book, which I'm not including that as my pros and cons. I didn't want that to affect my review process, but it will be something that I will mention, is that all the proceeds are being donated to local stray animal shelters. They don't have any details about that on the store page, so you just kind of have to trust them to do that, I guess. But that's still a very nice gesture, which is pretty impressive given that, when I picture somebody having a book that is purely non-profit, I don't picture this much work and professionalism put into it, I guess I should say. So I was very impressed by that. All right, let's go over my pros and cons for Candlekeep Library Bestiary. And yes, I know it's technically pronounced bestiary. Don't be that person. Nobody likes saying bestiary. It sounds stupid. It's a bestiary. Pro, over 30 library-themed stat blocks, including 10 NPCs. I think that's a really good compromise between quality and quantity. That's a really good amount of stat blocks, but there's still enough attention to detail paid on each one of those that I feel like that's, and it's not too hard to find, what I'm looking for and everything. It doesn't make the book too big. Honestly, I do think some of these monster supplement books just get so unwieldy when they're, so many hundreds of pages, although I do like my expanded monster manual, but still, I think this is a really great size. Pro, half of the monster stat blocks are clever constructs. Sometimes it's a con whenever I see too many of one type of creature being used in one monster supplement, but here I thought that was the exact right way to go. It's exactly what I'd want to see in a library themed dungeon, or a library room in a dungeon, is some kind of animated constructs. And I think the designer does a really great job coming up with some really clever, fun ideas for all of those different constructs. And over half a dozen magic items and new character background themed around libraries and studies. So it's not just a monster supplement. We also get some other little nice goodies, which is cool to have. Cons, my only con is that it is mostly stock art in here, which maybe that's a consequence of me reviewing a whole lot of products and seeing kind of the same, the same kind of art again and again throughout. And it does start to bug me a little bit. Maybe that's unfair, because somebody who doesn't review hundreds of products, and hasn't seen the same art, dozens of times, wouldn't necessarily bug them. And frankly, I don't think it looks bad at all. It's very well put together and everything. But I will say that when it comes to monster books especially, art does make a big difference in terms of how does that thing look. Does it have that cool professional art job and all of that? That helps the DM inspire you to make to want to use that creature, and then as a player, you can then give them handouts and make tokens and all this cool stuff that happens. So it does affect it a little bit, but it's a pretty minor con in the bigger scheme of things for this particular book. Final verdict: with a strict adherence to theming and a particular focus on fun new constructs, Candlekeep Library Bestiary shores up a monstrous gap in Candlekeep Mysteries or any library dungeon. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can watch more reviews and follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. You can support my work at patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Christopher, Thomas, Captain Mike, Adam, Stan, Nathan, Alex, Cam, William, and Jonathan. And Gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Ross, Limpy Spuds, Jerome, Scalenia, Nick, Farty Mc, Butterpants, Blood Angel, Bronos, Baboon, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, and James. Thank you all very much for your support.